Hello, it's Lynn Watts here, and today I want to talk about resilience. So, I'm going to share with you a picture book that I wrote that illustrates resilience and some of the important traits and qualities that go into being resilient, and then a lesson that you can use in the classroom or perhaps even individually with a individual student or in a small group that you could use to help students develop the concept of resilience and some of the traits that go into that. So the book I want to share with you is Wyatt the Wonder Dog Tries Again. And if this sounds familiar, it is a rewrite of the title that was originally Wyatt the Wonder Dog Learns About Mindset, which is all part of resilience. But I think this title is a little more descriptive. So we improved on a few things with the book, although it's the same basic story. And the basic story is something that happens to many children is they don't get selected for something that they try out for. In this case, it happens to be a baseball team, but certainly you could apply the story to almost any type of sports or activity, even academic activity that students try to apply for or try to achieve, and they don't make it. And the question always is, so if you set a goal and you anticipate making that goal and you don't make it, what happens next? What do you do next? How do you decide what to do? And all of that is involved in the story here in terms of the important character traits of that. So using a picture book always, I think, is a great way to set the stage for what you want to talk about in a lesson. So in my newest lesson plan book, which is the Elementary School Counselor's Book of Lesson Plans, Volume 2, there is a lesson called Bouncing Back, Stories and Games That Teach Resilience. And just like all of the lessons in this book, it starts with the standards that are based on ASCA standards. I'm showing you the wrong page here. There we go. It also includes a section on your objectives, 5 different picture books that you could read to set the stage, materials to get started for your activities, essential questions you want to ask, and a closing activity, a nice way to wrap it all up and help students remember what you've taught. So there's also an intro section, which always has some questions or some concepts that you want to teach in the lesson. And in this particular one, the definition of resilience, which of course is a buzzword that we use all the time, but do kids really know what it means? I think that's an important part of any lesson. It's the ability to bounce back from difficult situations or setbacks. And it involves adapting to challenges, finding ways to solve problems, maintaining a positive attitude, and so on. So it talks about the different traits and concepts that you would want to help define for students and help them understand how they could develop those and practice those traits. So how do you then move on to doing some sort of activity, some sort of application, so that you're not just spewing out a whole lot of information, but kids are really having a opportunity to learn about and practice what you're talking about. So I think one of the best ways to do that is to help students start thinking about scenarios where they would need to practice some of these traits. And certainly every child has had some situation where they were hoping to achieve something and it didn't happen. And I think that you can use all of those situations. You can certainly pair up students and have them role play some of those situations, or you could just have them talk with a partner, come up with problem solving ideas. What's the next step? What do you do going forward? You can use a picture book similar to the one I just talked about, or any of the ones that are in this section, and use that as a springboard to begin talking about that. But I think one really kind of fun way is to have some sort of activity that is a challenge for, and this would be with older students probably, but you could work on something that would be similar for younger students as well. But I know a lot of times with the older students, third grade, fourth grade, fifth grade, I would divide them into teams. I would give them some sort of problem solving challenge, like building a tower. There's a whole program that you can look at. I say program as more of a game that you can find on the internet called the Marshmallow Challenge, where students build a tower with spaghetti noodles, try and put a marshmallow on top. It's pretty hard to do, but I actually had students who were successful at that. So they work as a team to come up with that. Or you can do a cup stacking activity. I've done all kinds of different games. So you simply find an activity, a game that would be a bit of a challenge. And then the important part, and some of this I learned by making mistakes, is to spend a lot of time ahead of time. Don't just dive into the game, but rather spend a lot of time talking as a group, as a team, how they're going to accomplish that. How do they think it's going to happen? How's it going to work? What are they going to do first? What's it going to look like? Sometimes I even have them draw a diagram, what it's going to look like. Have them anticipate problems. There's a whole lot of processing that you can do ahead of time. Otherwise, sometimes what happens is you get a lot of frustrated students, a lot of tears, a lot of anger, which of course you can use to teach, but nevertheless, I think it's somewhat useful to process ahead of time, so you're not processing a lot of drama at the end. But then talking about what worked, what didn't work, how did they feel? How do you manage those feelings in the midst of failure? There's so much you can do with a lesson like this, but I think it helps to have some sort of practical application, something they're actually trying to accomplish, and then talk about that and how that applies in real life. So as always, in the lesson, there is a reflection journal page that you could use with students, have them reflect on that, and a review and reflect page, name one thing you learned, and a scale where they can rate how resilient they think they are. So each one of the lessons in the book has a number of activities, but that is, I think, one that would be very productive and useful as you're teaching resilience and the traits that are involved in that. So as always, I want to thank you for all the great work that you do with young students, and thanks so much for listening.